Mark, I must go to you first. Last night, the man who started the protests, Colin Kaepernick, tweeted this: "My brother, Kay Stills, continued his protest of systemic oppression tonight by taking a knee. Albert Wilson joined him in protest. Stay strong, brothers." Walk us through this, Mark. What message does this send? And we need to remind our viewers. This morning, we were going to be leading. The top story was going to be about immigration, the abomination and the fallout of the disaster that was President Trump's zero-tolerance policy. Probably number 2 story would have been Space Force, which we cannot find anyone in the Republican Party or the military to back. Maybe number 3 would be Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, the Manhattan Madam. All of those stories, you know who doesn't like them? The President of the United States. So he has decided to tweet yet another wildly, I'm not going to say what it is. He's tweeted about the NFL. What do you think, Mark?
Well, that's typical Trump. That's what he's doing. As I've said before, he wants to use this to drive a wedge and exploit the midterms. And it's really, exploit the midterms for his base, of course. It's really sort of a hate holiday weekend for him because we're bookended with the anniversary of Michael Brown's untimely death and the anniversary of Charlottesville. And it just so happens I'm blessed to be here in Phoenix with the A. Philip Randolph Institute, with leaders in the civil rights movement and the labor movement, Norman Hill, Cleola Brown, and George Gresham and others, who have dedicated their lives to fighting this fight. And are saying to all of us, we need to continue. We can't give it up at all. Donald Trump himself is a racist and a white supremacist. That's all there is to it. And he needs to understand these players are not going to fear him more than the game they play. Players go out every Sunday and risk their lives, risk even brain injury. Why would they fear Donald Trump? This tweet this morning, he sounds like he's somebody's master, telling players what they should and shouldn't be doing, and even saying they can't define what it is they're talking about. These players know very well what they're talking about, and they know, but for the grace of God, they could have been a Michael Brown or Trayvon Martin or Sandra Bland or the brother Marquise, who was just killed vis-a-vis Stand Your Ground in Florida. So I'm proud of these players. The whole country's proud of these players. Donald Trump is trying to bring back an era in America that we thought we had gotten rid of. But obviously, he wants to keep it alive. And just one more thing, if I could, Stephanie.
Please.
You know, we were talking this weekend at the conference. You know, these are laborers. Many people here are from labor unions, and they work alongside their white brethren. Dr. King talked about, from the steps of Montgomery State Capitol, about the evolution or the origin, the genesis of Jim Crow, and how there's really not a lot of difference between working class whites and working class African Americans and all other people of color. But people like Donald Trump, as they did in the 60s, he talked about how they would try to draw division between the two, because lest we all come together. What if all of us, black and white and brown and red, of course we're in Arizona, what if we all came together and realized that we're all human beings, we all want to take care of our families, we all want to care for one another? What if we did that? The power that that would have. He's trying to keep the last dying gasp happening of those who are white supremacists. That's all this is about. That's all he is about. And I think we all would do well to stand up against it. Charlottesville cost the life of a young white woman. Heather Heyer is our generation's Viola Liuzzo. She lost her life simply for standing against hate. And I don't want to be a spoiler, but Spike Lee's new movie, Black Klansman, comes out today. I encourage everyone to see it. Stephanie, you and I are alike, you know, it doesn't take much for us to get the waterworks going. But he invokes Heather Heyer. And when I saw that in that movie, I shed a tear. Why should that young woman be dead? Why should her life, this is 2018. Why are people still dying for this foolishness? We've got to all stand against it. And we ought to all stand for our opposite. That means we ought to look out for the people that we're not. Whites should stand for African Americans, citizens for immigrants, rich for poor, straight for gay. Men should stand up for the rights of women. If we all do that, this will be a better place, a better America. So if you want to fight back against Trump, and these tweets he's sending out, everybody ought to do those things this very weekend. Care about someone, learn about another culture, learn about other people that you didn't know about before, and learn to love them.
I do want to go back to LeBron James for just a moment and share what he said to Don Lemon last week. Because remember, that interview took place after LeBron James was announcing the school he is fully funding. And then the president took to Twitter this weekend to discuss how stupid LeBron and Don Lemon were. But here's what he said.
What I noticed over the last few months, that he's kind of used sport to kind of divide us. And that's something that I can't relate to, because I know that sport was the first time I ever was around someone white. You know, and I got an opportunity to see them and learn about them, and they got an opportunity to learn about me, and we became very good friends. And I was like, oh, wow, this is all because of sports. And sports has never been something that divides people. It's always been something that brings someone together.
Then is it unique to football? That's why the president is playing this card? Because LeBron James is right. Sport is something that does bring us together. Mark?
Well, again, I think it's timing. Football season is coming to a start. And we are approaching, we're less than 90 days from the midterms. Plus, he's got a chip on his shoulder about the NFL. He wanted to be an NFL owner. The USFL was a failed league that he was involved in. So we know that chip is there. And that's his insecurity, his ego, his trying to be macho. He's a very, very small man. So I think that's what it's all about. But again, I would encourage all of us, this is no time to be on the fence. And there's no time to be fooled. Dr. King said when those who have wrinkled stomachs and didn't have enough money through wages to fill those stomachs, they ate Jim Crow, a psychological bird that told them that at least they were better off than the black man, those who were white. Donald Trump is exploiting that same principle. He's exploiting a resentment in America that actually comes, to your point, Stephanie, that actually comes from him rewarding the corporate America and rewarding the rich. African Americans are not the enemy. It is the people like Donald Trump who line their own pockets, give themselves their own tax cuts, and take care of themselves. They are the enemy. He is the enemy, not people of color, not immigrants, not African Americans, not Native Americans, not women. None of that. This is Donald Trump's own doing. He is perpetuating that, and we need to isolate that and not turn on each other.